What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are playing Twin Town Throwdown up here in the Twin Cities. It's a B tier. We're playing Caposia twice and Bethel University, both super challenging tracks. It's day one out here, and we're gonna hopefully be hitting a lot of fairways, making a lot of big putts, and hopefully competing for the win going into round two. Let's get into it.
Riley Rankin.
All right, guys, we're back at it again with the voiceovers here. We have a really cool run-up song here, Kick It Up, and we just smoke it right into the first tree there on the right-hand side. A little nervous on the first tee, but we have this little jump putt approach. Not really even giving this one a bid with the ceiling that we have. We're just gonna pitch it under the basket and just take a tap-in par to start off the tournament. Here's hole 2, a little bit of a headwind, and the tee pad is always so slick. I'll run the clip right now before I throw, and you can see my buddy Travis slip on the tee pad, so we're kind of cautious of that and kind of pull it off to the right side. The headwind keeps it up and just really rides it straight, but we actually end up having this C2 putt for the first birdie of the day. Nerves are definitely high, about a 45 footer. Just got to give it the height. We got a right to left wind, and yeah, we put it right in the money. We give it the height. Here's a second look at it. That one definitely felt good. Really good first birdie of the day. It's always good when the putts are falling like that. Here's hole 3, really tricky little forehand that I'm not too confident in, but the forehand has been feeling pretty good recently. So put a good little rip on this. Little low, but hits a rock and kind of leaves us with this putt here. 45 footer, uphill. Little tricky little guy, but really just got to give it the height and just kind of let the disc fall into the basket. And we leave it just low and right, but we have this little tap in putt here into a little headwind, which was a little tricky. Next we have hole number 4, plays probably like 360. It's uphill, and you got to throw nose down but also high, something I struggle with. And we're throwing the Anthony Pedanza Emperor that he signed and used to have in the bag, so pretty cool, but we put a real good move on it and end up putting it to 15 to 20 feet, and we have this putt for another birdie. Little low and left, but it went in the basket. Here's the hardest hole on the course, hole number 5, super tricky par 3, and we're just playing for a 3, so we're laying up. I hit an unfortunate route, but we'll be in a decent spot. Here's Silas, a really good up-and-comer, throws a mile. He's like 980 now, so he got really unlucky on this tee shot. It was definitely going to be pretty close to the basket if he didn't hit that tree there. So here's my upshot here. Little tricky because it's uphill, but it needs to finish downhill, and if I throw backhand, I might hit the hill right in front of me, so I opt for the forehand play. Super technical, have to kind of land it flat and kind of just burn it over a little bit, but we do end up having this C2 putt for par. So with the C2 putt, it's been feeling pretty good. We hit that first one on hole 2, and yeah, more so of a layup, soft to bid type of thing. Here's Silas again. He has a really good putt as well. Comes out super simple form, super spinny, real close there. Here we have hole 6. We're throwing the Evan Walker Crave, and yeah, get kind of lucky on the right hand side, and we kind of scoot up into this really weird spot here. It's a par 4, so really sick par 4. Just added this to the course. We're throwing Benny here, and super technical, not really my style of a throw. Kind of have to be in the patent pending, but does leave us this C2 putt again for birdie. We're gonna just give this one a little soft bid, and you know, if we take a par here, totally fine. This hole is another one of those pretty hard ones out there, so don't really give the height, but that's totally fine. Here's Silas, and yeah, here's another really hard hole, hole number 7. We're throwing Scorch, so kind of the plan is to hit it flat and let it flip up on the left side and kind of ride to the basket, and kind of just leave it a little low and a little too flat, and it kind of burns over and kind of cut rolls to this spot here. We have this little scramble flex forehand shot that we just need to float right in there and put it right next to the basket and have an easy putt for par. And we leak it just a little wide and needed a little bit more height on it, but leaves us with a 35 footer, and this one's a little nervy because we haven't really had this distance yet at least, but let's see how the putt's feeling. Very happy that putt went in. Here we have hole 8. We're sitting one down since we took the bogey on that other hole, and yeah, we just leak it a little to the right. Again, it's kind of been a common theme that we'll see the rest of the day and possibly the rest of the tournament. So leaves us with another C2 putt here. Kind of tricky. We have to throw down some anhyzer, which not really the greatest at, but we leak it out there, throw it on some Annie, and yeah, we go ahead and tap in the par there. Here we have hole 9, par 4, in a really tricky green position, but pretty simple. We're throwing the Anthony Bedanza Emperor again. Really just trying to max out the distance here, get a good grip on it, and we do that. So throw it out there probably 370, 380, and we have this really tricky either forehand shot or backhand hyzer, and yeah, it's very windy left to right, so it's very technical here, and I just baby it, and the left to right wind just pushes it way down the hill, but it does leave us with an actual putt here. So yeah, little C2 putt uphill, got to give it a baby bid, and let's see what happens. Yeah, not much of a bid, but here we have hole 10. T-sign says hole 11. There's 20 holes out here, but this is hole 10 for the tournament. We're throwing buzz, playing this one for par. Super tricky hole. We're just trying to leave ourselves with a 70 footer-ish, and we pipe it, but we don't really put a good snap on it. So we're going to be sitting 85 to 110 feet out, and we have this putt here, really just throwing it up, and it falls into the basket. Absolutely insane. One of the better putts I've ever had in a tournament. So super sick is what we're going to say to that one. Here we have hole 11, another little par 4, throwing that Anthony Bedanza Emperor again, really just trying to rip this one, get a little turn out of it, and starts fading out to the left, and we'll be in a pretty decent spot out there. Here's Silas, really gets to show off his distance here, and absolutely rips on it. He's going to end up with a putt for eagle. Here's my approach shot. Leave it a little shorter than I wanted to, so have this little spinny Benny shot here, and almost kind of give it a little run there. So does give us a putt for birdie. Here's Silas' putt for eagle. So close, but here's my putt for birdie. Just a little 10, 15 footer here. He's been feeling pretty good. And that's back-to-back birdies. Here we have hole 11. Little forehand guy. Got to have it nose down, put some angle on it, and give it a chance. So we don't do that at all. Leave it nose up, not really committed. And yeah, we're going to have another little C2 putt. Really got to figure out the forehand. I guess this might be outside of C2, but definitely give it a chance, but sail way past the basket and have this tricky little 15, 20 footer that you really don't want to have on a relatively easy hole. But we do end up putting it in the basket. Now we have hole 12, I believe. Another really tricky 250-foot hole, just dead straight. And we leaked this one just a little bit to the right, but this is one I'm happy taking a par on. So we pitch up for par and just take a par. Here we have hole 13, really tricky par 3. And yeah, we missed that tree, which makes it definitely really nice. Get a really good skip up and around, and we just have this jump putt here, really just jumping up and hopefully taking a par on this one. So I do believe there was one birdie on this hole, which is absolutely insane, and I believe it was a throw-in. So really hard one to birdie, but we pitch it up, get a little flippy on the upshot, but we go ahead and tap that guy in, and yeah. Next we have hole 15, I believe. This is a super tricky hole. Gotta leave it. Gotta flip it up and let it ride. So we're throwing the Evan Walker Crave again. Flips up so pretty, and I don't really get the snap at the end of the throw, so I don't really think it's that good, but it leaves us with a birdie putt. So this is for the only birdie of the day, I believe. So would love to knock this one in on this hole. Another little 30, 35 footer that just right outside of circle range. And we hit the top of the basket, and it leaves us with a comebacker. Another little tricky one. You know, it's that 15 to 20 footer comeback that you really just don't want to have, but if you got to have it, you got to have it. You got to make these if you want to compete for a win. So we put it down and make that putt. Here we have hole 16, one you really want to birdie, and I'm throwing purple Buzz SS, and we kind of stumble on our feet a little bit and really got to reset the mind and kind of the whole pace again. So we do a little bit good job of that, and yeah, we're back at it. Want to leave this one off to the left and kind of drift it to the right, but we do that, but then get a pretty bad kick way down to the left, and we have this really tricky approach shot. So you can either go out to the right, or you can see there's a little gap there straight in front of me that I could have taken, but we're opting for this little flick forehand out to the right hand side and see if we can't put it close here. One that I definitely took my time on, but this tree came up real quick, and I hit a leaf and maybe kind of redirects it back into this, but not really a putt you want to have for par, especially on this hole, one you would maybe kind of expect to birdie. So another C2 putt here. Let's see if we can't knock it down. We give it the height, and it just falls right into the basket. Here's hole 17. Probably the signature hole out here, and we just get super lucky.
Nice.
So that's all I'm really going to say. Not really committed on this shot at all, but here's another C2 putt for birdie on a hole that, you know, playing MA1, you probably should be birdieing, you know, maybe 70 to 80% of the time. So we just splash out on the left side.
What was that? Grass baskets, man.
Gotta love that scene from Isaac Robinson. Here we have hole 18. Sitting pretty good, like I said, 3 down. Would love to get another birdie on the day, but leaves us in a pretty good spot. We have a super weird run up here. Super uphill, throwing Benny. We just kind of yank it over to the right. Again, common theme that we've kind of been having, but tricky C2 putt here. Probably 35, 40 feet uphill. Super windy, as you can see on the flag on the right-hand side. It's kind of switching head right to left, but this will be for the solo lead going into round 2. And the headwind really doesn't give it a lift that I was kind of expecting, but all in all, we finished with quite a few pars, but 976, 3 down, puts us on lead card day 2, and here we are out at Bethel University. Little par 3 here that you definitely at least want a par, but we decided to just throw it right into the trees on the right hand side, and it leaves us with this. I really have nothing. I sit here for probably 45 seconds trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm on 2 knees and I'm just trying to say a prayer, and as I throw this, and I just throw it, get a kick out to the left here, and then we're trying to throw a scuba on this next shot. Basket's only about 45, 50 feet away, and I just baby it, don't even give it a chance really. And now this is for bogey, about a 30, 35 footer, death behind, and we're low on that one. So we take a double to start, not really the ideal start. Hole 2 is a really tricky hole, one that would be really nice to get. I'm throwing a pretty stable Raptor there on a forehand, and honestly ends up pretty decent. And this is a real testament putt on kind of how the day's going to go, because, you know, if we miss this one, it's probably going to be a long day. So let's see how it goes. And barely sneaks in there, but really good bounce back birdie. Here's hole 3, really cool, par 4, and we kind of just leak it a little bit, but we end up in the middle of the fairway with a really tricky run up with these ruts here, and you can see I'm not very comfortable, and this just is a super awkward throw, but we get it out there and we'll at least be able to scramble for par, hopefully. And yeah, we're throwing 2 tomahawks in 3 holes now, so not really ideal, but Luna tomahawk flippy disc pans really nicely and leaves us with this putt for par on a pretty tricky par 4. We end up making that here, and here's a really tricky hole. Hole number 4 plays out to the right, and this was so close to being halfway decent, but we get a kick over to the right, and this was a little tricky approach here. So thought about this one for a while, thought about going left side, but we decided to go on the right side and just get a little zone up there, super nice and smooth. Not really sure why I ran up though, and we kind of juice it a little bit, and now we're sitting at 35, 40 feet for par. And that putt just kind of came off my finger, really weird, but now we have another 15, 20 footer for bogey, and we do end up making that one, but not really how we wanted to start the day. Let's see if we can't get a good tee shot on this hole here. Throwing forehand destroyer, super swoopy and nose up, and we basically hit first available. We're like probably 400 feet out, I would have to say. We're throwing the same exact shot, really going to rip into this one, see if we can't get it close to the basket. And we do just that. I actually throw maybe one of my best forehands that has ever left my hand. Leaves us with this birdie putt. So I'm thinking that forehand was maybe right around the 370 range. Felt really good. And we have this putt for birdie, and there's kind of death behind, so it's kind of a soft bid, but wasn't really a bid. This next hole here is another little tricky type hole, but we throw a forehand Raptor, and we're just kind of in jail here, don't even have a putt, but we take a par on hole 6. Hole 7 is a OB filled hole here, throwing super overstable as there's a right to left, and kind of do that same thing that we did 2 holes ago and just kind of leak it and baby it a little bit. And we have this approach, par 3, it's about 430 feet, and like I said, OB on the far left, and we're just throwing Luna kind of hit the tree, but get a fortunate skip out there, and we actually end up taking a par. Hole 8's a hole that you do want to get out here. It's only about 150 feet. We're going standstill zone. Just a smooth little guy out there, and leaves us with this putt here, and we'll be happy to take a birdie on this hole. So after the birdie here, we're throwing Buzz SS, and we shank it way over to the right, and we're actually gonna do a form review here. So you guys can see I'm starting way over on the right hand side, not really reaching back, but you can see exactly where the disc is going. So definitely have some rounding and some form problems going on, as I mentioned earlier in the vlog. But we're scrambling again, and really tricky scramble, but we end up just jump punting out and end up taking a par on a relatively easy hole. This next hole, 300 feet, we're throwing Destroyer forehand. This disc has been coming out amazing, and we do the exact same thing. Give it the height that it needs. This whole left side's OB in jail. We're actually going to look at this replay again. It really did feel that good. Popped out of the hand, and it's going to leave us with a putt for birdie. Another testament putt. A little uphill. Gotta pop it and at least give it a chance. Super confident swing and putt. Here's hole 11. We're throwing Benny off the tee. Just got to be smooth. Really tricky hole. You got to flip something up, and we end up just getting a slight kick. It would have been pretty decent, I think. But here's Silas, 979 rated. Super smooth. Really good player.
That's what I was trying to do.
Flips it up really nice, and he's going to be close. We're actually going to do a form review on him, and I like how he's running up directly straight from where he's throwing. You see, he turns his shoulders around, flips the disc up. Super smooth, super powerful. We're going to see a little bit more of him later on as well. So, leaves us with this putt here. We're out in C2. Going to try and give this a little soft bid, but was close, but it was a little bit more spinny, and leaves us with a tricky, windy putt here. 15-20 feet. Really not one you want to have on a hole like this. But a little high, but we do end up picking up that par. Really cool hole here. OB Lake on the right. We're throwing Santa Destroyer, good old water disc. Honestly, form felt really good here. Just the wind, I wasn't too sure what was happening, and just leaves us with this death putt here. Kind of think about this one for a little bit. The wind was so swirly, and I really wanted to at least give this one a bid. But it just, I don't know, wasn't really a bid. Here we have hole 13. We're throwing Heat. Very uphill. Can't really tell in the video here, but get a turn out of it, and it just turns a little bit too much, but leaves us with this C2 look. Yeah, not really a bid. Here's a super tricky, tight gap, par 3, hole 14. One I was definitely nervous about going into this hole, and yeah, we put a really good move on it, but just doesn't give the skip that we have. We have this little jumper, just laying this one up, and yeah, we kind of put a little bit too much oomph into it. It's a little downhill. Leaves it with another nervy 15-20 footer. We do knock it down though. Another very hard fought par. Really sick par 4, one of my favorite holes on this course. We're throwing the Anthony Bedanza Emperor here, and form looks really good there. put a really good move on it, and we're going to be in a pretty good spot here to attack the green. So really want you guys to look at my run up here. I'm way over to the right. This is extremely uphill, but yeah, we just hit that. We're actually going to look at it again here. Look, just a lot of rounding happening here, and that's just kind of how we've been going, but this shot was insane. As you can tell by a reaction, it almost went in, just right in front of the basket. Really good approach there. This hole's tricky, and I thought it was a headwind, and I'm not too sure what it was. But it does leave us with a little tricky putt, probably 80 feet out, uphill, and we just kind of swing it up there, and it actually ends up being pretty decent. We go ahead and tap in another par. Hole 17's a super tight wooded shot. We're throwing Benny off the tee. Super smooth. Hit it exactly how I wanted to. We're actually going to look at this one again. Just look how smooth, compact the form is. Just a little snap of the wrist, really downhill. And it leaves us with this putt for birdie. I was really feeling the nerves here. Again, this is just a 15-20 footer, but we do put it down. And really good birdie to get. Hole 18, I was going to throw a yellow Raptor that's pretty flippy, but wind's kind of swirly, and we have a tailwind here, and I just snapped the balls a little bit too much. Needed to hit it flat, and we end up pitching up for a par. We end up finishing at 1 down, 980. Nothing I can be too ashamed of, as this was only the second round I've ever played at this course. Alright guys, it is day 3. We're playing Caposia again. Yesterday we played Bethel. Wasn't the greatest, wasn't the best, but we did finish under par. I'll throw that scorecard up right here. Felt pretty decent. First hole jitters definitely got to us, but we're excited to compete for the win out here at Kaposia, the course that I feel a lot more confident at compared to Bethel, at least. Not going to get a lot of footage today, but I'll hopefully get a lot of footage of my card mates as we battle for the win. So nerves are definitely flowing, but let's get after it. All right, guys, we didn't get too much footage of today, but here's Cameron on hole 5. Absolutely park job.
My man.
Insane, really hard hole. We also played with Ronan, and also Dwayne was on the lead car. Super spinny jump putt there on hole 18. And here's Cam for eagle on hole 18. Alright guys, finishing up the video here. I'll pop up at least the first 9 holes that we had during round 3. Had a really good time, but really wasn't able to get anything going, at least in the first 9 holes. As you can see, we were at even par after 9 holes, which out there you at least want to be maybe 1 or 2 under after the first 9 holes, but got a good birdie on 2, bogeyed 5 again, which was kind of unfortunate. And then we did get out on hole 6 and 7 without any bogeys, but then we end up bogeying hole 8 and kind of have that same form issue that I was talking about throughout the entire week and tournament. Just pulled it probably 15 to 25 feet to the right and end up taking a really bad kick and pitch up and end up going to C2 and I'm just not able to connect on that putt. We do end up getting a really good birdie though on hole 9. I'll throw up the next couple holes here. We go par, par, par on 10, 11, and 12, and really just don't give ourselves a chance to really score at all. We do end up getting a pretty good birdie though on hole 13, a hole I'm not really counting as a birdie. It's just a tight putter shot, and par is pretty good on that hole in my opinion. We get to hole 14 and have a decent drive, hit one of the trees though in the fairway, pitch up to 20, 25 feet, and we do actually end up missing that putt, which really was the only putt that I really missed in circle 1. So pretty good week in circle 1, which you gotta gotta like. And then we end up going par on 15 and 16. Again, just don't give myself a chance to really make a putt at all at either of those holes. Hole 17, I was pretty nervy after kind of shanking it the first round, but we end up putting a pretty good move on Benny and put it to 25, 30 feet, make that putt. So going into hole 18, I did finally look at scores. I definitely heard some chatter going on throughout the round, but this happened. So that's definitely kind of hard to compete against. Silas went absolute bananas. I seen that, kind of heard that throughout the round, which is totally fine. And definitely just wasn't my day out there on the course. And like I said, with all the form issues and stuff. So finally looked at scores and I seen that there was 3 of us sitting in 3rd place, all tied, and they're all on my card. I knew I definitely wanted to get a podium spot. So I knew I needed to birdie, put a really good move on my Emperor, get it all the way up on top of the hill. And then we actually have a forehand into the green and we just kind of leak it, baby it a little bit, fade down the hill, kind of have a similar putt that we did to round 1, and we're just not able to connect, leave it short, and that basically sums up the whole tournament. Out of the, I believe, 54 holes that we did play, I was only inside circle off the tee 11 times. So if you do want to score, obviously these are tricky tracks, but just kind of hard to score when you're only inside the circle 11 times. So all in all, though, big shout out to Silas. Again, I'll throw up his scorecard here. Absolute insane round. But yeah, as for me, putter was definitely feeling very good this tournament. We made some big highlight circle 2 putts, and the C1 putter was definitely working this tournament. So all that putting practice definitely paid off. But we're definitely going to be switching up the backhand just a little bit. Maybe try and get a little cleaner, straightforward run up, very similar to Silas's, as I feel like that might be kind of affecting kind of my consistency, at least backhand wise, and put a little bit of work in on the forehand. And yeah, we got Ledgestone in a couple weeks. Super pumped. So you guys are gonna have to stay tuned for that vlog. All in all, that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. If you guys are new here and have stayed this long into the video, thank you so much. Lots of disc golf footage, and I really appreciate you listening to me yap the entire time. So super long video, and again, guys, really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and as always, be nice to yourself.
Twin Town Throwdown MA1 champion, Silas Shell. Good job, buddy. Woo! Way to go. Over there with the Doritos. And then go get your picture on hole 1 with the banner in the back.